Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. So I wanted to touch base, and I wanted, I've been seeing this going around. I've been seeing this Marie Kondo. Her name's come up like 5 or 6 times in the past like 2 weeks. And so I got curious, and I was like, who is this person? Like, who is this Marie Kondo? What does she do? Like, I have no idea. I need to find out. So I went and I did a little bit of research, and she's what she calls herself an organizing consultant. But basically she helps people like get their space together and get rid of stuff that they don't need and all that kind of stuff, right? So that everything's where it needs to be, and there's nothing there that doesn't need to be there. And it's, it kind of like brings order and simplicity and all that kind of stuff. By the way, if that's something you want in your life, I happen to know somebody who's good at that. So if that's something you want, just like shoot me a message and I'll direct you to her accordingly, because I'm sure Marie Kondo is like ridiculously expensive. But I know someone who will do it for a lot less than that, who's really good. But that aside. But so as I was looking into this, I saw that she had like, her philosophy and kind of the way she was going about things. And I realized that there's a lot of insights from that apply to what I do. And so I wanted to share those with you, right? I know this is going to be kind of like a fun thing because, you don't necessarily always get to connect the dots here. But so the first insight that comes from this is she has this question that she asks people about objects, right? So she'll be like, she'll look at something and she'll be like, does this spark joy, right? That's what she says. Does this spark joy? And if the answer to that question is no, well, then get rid of it. Like, that's it, right? And there's so much power there because the power is in the simplicity. It's one simple question. Does this spark joy? And so if you look at your job, if you look at what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, does it spark joy? If what you're doing does not spark joy, then there needs to be a change, right? And so when she goes and she does her thing and she says, does this spark joy? And people will say no, right? But then they'll get into all these stories of, oh, but the one time, and there's the nostalgia and the this and the that and the maybe someday somebody this or whatever. And there's all this stuff. It's the same thing for what I do. If I'm talking to somebody and I say, hey, listen, do you like what you do? Does it spark joy? And they say no, well, then they need to change. And they can go into all these stories of, oh, well, I don't know if I can. And when I was young, my parents would tell me that I couldn't. And what if I don't make money or the this or the that or whatever? Those are all either irrelevant in the case of like what your sister told you when you were 8, or surmountable if it's how do I make money doing this, right? Those are all overcomable challenges. What is not negotiable is if what you're doing in your career does not spark joy, you need to be doing something else, right? That's the non-negotiable. That's in the simplicity of reducing it down to that one simple question. Does it spark joy? Super powerful. So awesome for Marie Kondo. The second insight, though, that comes out of this and this whole decluttering thing is that it's far easier to throw away a piece of trash or an object, right? It's far easier to throw away an object than it is to quit your job, right? That's just a reality. Like you have income coming in from your job. You can't just walk into your boss and be like, this job doesn't spark joy. Up yours. I'm leaving, right? You can't do that. But there's another insight from the world of decluttering. And this one actually didn't come from Marie Kondo. This actually came from this other person I know who does decluttering, who I told you I recommend. And she has a rule, right, when it comes to like if somebody's selling something, right, she says, give yourself a date by which you're going to sell it. And then if you haven't sold it by that point, just give it away, right? So if, there's a monetary thing involved here, you got to give it some time, but you can't give it forever. And so it's the same thing with your job, right? If you look around and you say, no, my job does not spark joy. I do not like what I'm doing, right? I've got to make a change. Well, then the next step is you have to put a date on it. You have to give yourself a date by which you are going to quit. If you do not do that, then it may never happen. If you do that, then your mind will say, well, if I'm quitting on this date, I have to have something lined up by then. And you will do the work to make sure that you have an alternate source of income at that point in time. So you set a date, right? And I've seen people, I've had a thing of one particular client, she set a date for when she was going to quit. And then when that date came, she didn't quit. And then 8 months later, she was still in that job. And that's when she realized that she needed help. And so if nothing else, if you set a date and you don't hit that date, then you know that you need help, which brings us to the third point. The third insight is that if you need help, get help. So, with Marie Kondo or with this other person that I mentioned, right, there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm just going to clean up my space myself, right? It's not that hard. It's just throwing some stuff away and moving it around. But when it actually comes time to do it, they don't do it, right? They struggle to throw things away, or they struggle to figure out where things should go. A lot of it's struggling to throw stuff away, struggling to let go of the past, struggling to let go of beliefs that aren't serving them, struggling to see the potential for the future, right? And that's why they hire experts. That's why they go hire Marie Kondo to come in and organize the space, right? That's why that happens, right? And fundamentally, it's the same thing here, right? If you're in your job and you hate it, and maybe you've set a target and you haven't reached it, maybe you don't know how you can make income doing what you love, maybe you don't see that path, you don't see how to get around certain obstacles, you're bogged down in the past, well, then you need help, right? You need help. And that's why I'm here. That's why this group exists. That's why these videos exist. That's why I'm available. You can email me, you can schedule. The best way to do it is to go schedule a call. I can give you a link here. Awesome. So here's the link, right? And so you can go to that link, www.oculusinstitute.com/scheduling, and we'll go and we'll talk and we'll get clear. Listen, what's going on? What's in the way? What's holding you back, right? Where do you want to go? And then what are the best next steps? So that's it. That's really simple. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is go back to number one, more powerful than anything else. Does it spark joy? If you look around your office and you realize that this job doesn't spark joy, it's not time to throw out some knickknack or whatever. It's time to throw out the whole thing, throw out the whole office, right? Move on, right? Because your life is not designed, you are not built to go through life doing something that does not spark joy. You are built to go through life doing what you love. And I guarantee you that there's a way to make money from things you're passionate about, right? Now, I know if you say, hey, listen, I'm passionate about sitting on the beach drinking margaritas or whatever, believe it or not, there's actually a way to make money doing that too. You just have to do some organization beforehand to organize the party and bring people and do all this kind of stuff. That's how club promoters work. But that aside, right? Obviously, but be real, right? About what you're really passionate about. But the world is so big. There are 7 billion people on this planet, okay? There are enough other people who share your values that you can build a business around your passions, right? That you can find a place of employment that matches what you want. Even if 999 of them don't work for you, you can find the one that does, because this is a big world, right? It's a big world with a lot of opportunity and a lot of possibility, right? And so you should always be doing something that sparks joy. So guys, hope you enjoyed that. Looking forward to hearing from you guys, and I will see you all in a couple days. Farewell.